In today's demo, we are going to talk about the employee time clock module that we have inside of Focus. It lets you keep track of all of your employees' time that they have clocked in and clocked out. To clock in, the employee needs to click on the time clock manager over here, and they can place their finger on the fingerprint reader or swipe their card. Once they have swiped their card, you can see that they are clocking in because it was flashing red, and it notifies the employee that he did clock in. So if the screen was flashing on clock out, it means that he has already clocked in for the day. It's kind of a visual warning for the employee that if he was clocking out at 4 p.m. and he swiped his card and it was blinking on the clock in button, flashing in red, then it's kind of a visual letting the employee know that he forgot to clock in this morning. And now that the employee has worked a few hours, we are going to now have him clock out, so he will place his finger onto the fingerprint reader or he will swipe his magnetic card. And you can see that the clock out button is flashing, meaning that the employee is clocking out for the day. So as you can see, you are going to actually have your employees use this screen here, the time clock manager screen. We are on time clock entry. Again, they can swipe their finger on the fingerprint reader or swipe the actual magnetic card that they own to clock in and clock out, and they will do this every single day. When the employees, or actually when the management is looking to get a report of how many hours all of your employees have worked, they will click on this time clock manager button up here. So now that we have chosen our time clock manager, I can scroll down this list of all my employees and I can kind of get a sense of who has worked what hours. And it's all based on the calendar up here. So from February 1 through February 28th, it looks like Jim Osdell has worked all of these hours over here. I do want to show you that if you check this box here, when you have it enabled, when you check that box, when you slide these scroll bars, you're actually scrolling from January 1st through January 31st. So you can see that we're scrolling a month at a time by sliding this bar over. Okay, so we are watching a month at a time. If you needed to make a custom report instead of a month for a whole entire month, you could uncheck this box here, change this back to February. I could actually drop this box here and say, show me what hours my employees have worked from February 1st through February 5th. And then I can hit refresh, or I can see here that it has already adjusted my timesheet. But for our example today, we're going to select a whole entire month. From February 1st until March 1st. I wanted to show you a little bit about this screen right here. We have a little bit of color going on, and what we have is on March 26th, we have some clock in, several clock in, and over here on February 4th, we have some gray boxes. When the item is in gray, it means that somebody has modified the time. When you have something in green, it means that somebody has entered in a time swipe because possibly the employee has forgot to clock in or forgot to clock out. So it just tells you visually that somebody has manually entered in on the 5th that Jim worked from 8 o'clock until 4 p.m. because he forgot his magnetic card at home, you don't have the fingerprint reader, one of those situations. So you can enter them in by hand. If you needed to modify a time, let's say here that he clocked in at 1:50, I can always click on the pencil to modify the starting time. I can change the date and time. Here, I can type it in by hand, and I can also give a description of why I am modifying this time so that it will be stored into the database for later retrieval. If I want to delete an entry, I can just use the red X here to delete that entry, and it will go away, go away. So all of those entries are now gone. And I can scroll down this list and I can see what hours people have worked. When you have selected all your employees that you want to get a report for, you can check the boxes here. And I can go over here to print my timesheet. And as you can see, I have 3 sheets of paper over here for my 3 employees that I have chosen. David Pruing has worked no hours, and Factory has not clocked in or out, but Jim Osdale has worked some hours, and we can see here that the gray was modified times, the green were a custom time entry where we've added something. We didn't modify an existing time swipe, we added one from scratch, you might say. And down here it says that I have worked 17 hours, 33 minutes, and 12 seconds on this report. I will close it down. And I wanted to also show you a little something about how we can manage your employees by using this Manage Employees button. Click on Managing the Employees, and everybody that is listed here in red, it means that the employee has not been set up for a time card, a magnetic card, or a fingerprint reading. So if I was to click here on Todd Buchanan and then go to Properties, I can see that I can enter in a different name if I wanted to, but in this case, there's no magnetic card set up for Todd, so I could swipe a card through my card reader and it will apply him a new card. And I can also have him place his fingerprint on the fingerprint reader. And so now that we have had Mr. Todd Buchanan put his finger on the fingerprint reader, we can see here his fingerprint image, and we can see here that we have a very green status bar. You want to press his finger onto the fingerprint reader many times so that you have a green bar and that it says good quality, and I'm going to actually now save that fingerprint. Okay, so now we can see here that Todd Buchanan does, I'm not sure why it's still showing red, but let me hit refresh, and now that I've hit refresh, the red bar is no longer for Todd because Todd has been assigned his fingerprint and or a magnetic card. Don't forget when you're assigning him a magnetic card, if you click on card detail, if I swipe a card through the card reader at this point, now that I have swiped a card through the card reader here, it says acquired, and it happens to be card number 5. Don't forget that the dates here should be changed so that he has some time to use the card, so you can give him a year or 2 or whatever. But once this expiration date happens, he will not be able to use that card. Always remember to click on the card enabled button. Okay, we click on OK, and we've saved our work. We hit refresh, and Todd Buchanan now has a nice white line. And all the rest of these employees here that are in red need to have a card and or fingerprint swiped so that they could actually use the time clock program. Closing the window here, I could have another employee clock in or clock out on this screen, but that pretty much concludes this demo on how to use the time clock program.
And in addition to the data reports that you can find for your time clock in the Time Clock Manager program, we talked about that earlier here, and in the Time Clock Manager you can print your reports for all your employees by using this print data log. Something else that we've done for other customers, and everybody is able to use these reports, is you can go into the report system of Focus, click here. We made 2 reports, one called time clock and one called time clock with rounding. The time clock with rounding report will round everybody to the nearest quarter hour, so if they clock in at 5 minutes to 8 a.m., they've actually clocked in at 8 a.m. It's rounding to the nearest 15 minutes. And this report right here is a time clock report also, but it will not do any rounding, and you select your starting date here and your ending date here, and it will choose all of your employees, and then you can click on print, and that seems to be a preferred way of getting time clock reports for your payroll, because you can select the 2 weeks or a week time period that you're paying your employees for.